Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'll be sharing 5 bone-chilling true stories from small towns where everyone knows your name. And sometimes, that's the most terrifying thing of all. These are places where secrets don't stay buried, and the past has a way of crawling back into the present. Make sure to like the video and leave a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. That way, YouTube will make sure you don't miss any stories by showing you stories just like this one every time. Now, turn off your lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin. My name is Sarah, and I need to tell you about Millbrook, Pennsylvania. Population 847. The kind of town where nothing ever happens, or so I thought. I was 17 when my family moved there in the summer of 2019. My dad got a job at the old paper mill, and we settled into a Victorian house on Maple Street. The realtor kept calling it charming. I called it creepy from day one. The house had this weird layout. Long hallways that seemed to stretch forever. Windows that faced other windows. And my bedroom. God, my bedroom was at the end of the second floor, overlooking the town square. The first week was normal enough. I unpacked, explored the town, met a few locals at the diner. But then I noticed something strange. Every morning at exactly 6:47 a.m., I'd wake up with this feeling. You know that sensation when someone's watching you, that prickling on the back of your neck. I'd look out my window and there'd be a man, always the same man, standing in the town square, perfectly still, staring directly at my window. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Maybe he was waiting for the bus or something. But Millbrook didn't have public transportation, and he never moved. Not for the entire hour I'd watch him before school. I mentioned it to my parents at breakfast one morning. My mom laughed it off. My dad he got this weird look on his face, like he knew something but didn't want to say. "Just ignore him, honey," was all he said. But I couldn't ignore him, because after that conversation, the man started appearing at different times. 3 p.m. when I got home from school, 9 p.m. when I was doing homework, midnight when I couldn't sleep. Always staring, never moving. I tried telling my friend Em about it. She lived in Millbrook her whole life. When I described the man to her, tall, gaunt, wearing a gray coat that looked like it was from the 1950s, her face went white. "You can see him," she whispered. That's when she told me about Robert Finch. In 1952, he was Millbrook's mailman, beloved by everyone, until they found out he'd been breaking into houses, stealing personal items, taking photographs of people while they slept. When the police finally came for him, he barricaded himself in the post office. They found him 3 days later, hanging from the rafters, but not before he'd covered every wall with photographs, hundreds of them, all taken from the exact spot where he now stood in the square. The building was torn down, but the foundation remained. That's where the gazebo is now, right where I'd been seeing him. "But here's the thing," Emma said, her voice shaking. "Not everyone can see him. Only the people he chooses, the ones he's interested in." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept my curtains drawn, lights on, door locked. At 3:33 a.m., I heard something, a soft tapping, at my window. I told myself it was a branch, a bird, anything rational. But the tapping continued, rhythmic, deliberate. I couldn't help it. I looked. He was there, but not in the square anymore. He was on my roof, pressed against my second-story window, his face inches from the glass. His eyes were completely black, and his mouth was moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. I screamed. My parents burst in, but when they looked at the window, they saw nothing. The curtains were still drawn, exactly as I'd left them, but I knew what I'd seen. We moved out 2 weeks later. My dad suddenly got a transfer. But before we left, the local librarian pulled me aside. "Mrs. Chun had lived in Millbrook for 60 years. You're the 7th person to live in that house in 5 years, she said quietly. "The ones who can see him always leave. But the last family, their daughter didn't. She tried to stay, tried to prove she wasn't afraid." She handed me a newspaper clipping from 6 months before we'd moved in. A 17-year-old girl named Jessica Martinez had disappeared from that house. They found her 3 days later, wandering the woods outside town. She never spoke again, just stared straight ahead. The article mentioned her eyes. Witnesses said they'd turned completely black. I'm 21 now, living 3 states away. I've never been back to Millbrook, but sometimes, when I wake up at 6:47 a.m., I swear I can feel him watching me. And last week, I found something in my mailbox. A photograph of me, sleeping in my new apartment. The timestamp said it was taken at 3:33 a.m. My name is Marcus, and I grew up in Ashford Hollow, West Virginia. Population, 612. A town so small, it doesn't even appear on most maps anymore. I was 9 years old in the summer of 2012 when I first heard them. The Echo Children. That's what my grandmother called them, though she'd always cross herself when she said it. Ashford Hollow was built in a valley, surrounded by dense forest and abandoned coal mines. The town was dying slowly. Most families had left, leaving behind empty houses with broken windows and overgrown yards. My friends and I would play in these abandoned homes. It was stupid, I know, but when you're 9 in a town with nothing to do, stupid seems fun. The Morrison house was our favorite. 3 stories, Victorian style, with a turret and a wraparound porch. It had been empty for 12 years, ever since the family just vanished. All 5 of them, gone overnight without a trace. It started on a Tuesday in July. Me, Tommy, and Lisa were exploring the attic when we heard it. A child's voice singing. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Ring round the rosy, pocket full of posies. We froze. The voice was crystal clear, but wrong somehow. Like it was being played backwards and forwards at the same time. There's no one here, Tommy whispered. We checked every room, but the singing continued. Then another voice joined. Then another. Soon, it sounded like a dozen children, all singing the same nursery rhyme, all slightly out of sync. We ran. We ran so fast we didn't stop until we were back on Main Street. But here's what still haunts me. As we burst out of the Morrison house, I looked back. There were children in every window. Pale faces, dark eyes, all watching us leave. All smiling. I told my grandmother what we'd seen. She didn't seem surprised. She sat me down and told me the story of Ashford Hollow's darkest secret. In 1952, there was a flu outbreak. 18 children died within a week. The town was devastated. But here's what the history books don't tell you. The children didn't die from the flu. They were buried alive, mistaken for dead in the chaos, sealed in their coffins, and lowered into the earth while their hearts were still beating. They discovered the truth weeks later when the groundskeeper heard scratching from inside the mausoleum. When they opened the tomb, they found tiny fingernail marks on the inside of every coffin lid. After that, children in Ashford Hollow started disappearing. Not many, one every few years. Always the same pattern. They'd be playing in an abandoned house, and they'd just never come home. My grandmother gripped my hand tight. They're looking for playmates, Marcus. The ones who can hear them are the ones they want. You need to promise me you'll never go back to that house. I promised, but Tommy didn't listen. 3 nights later, Tommy's mom called my house, frantic. Tommy had snuck out after dinner. They found his bike outside the Morrison house, but Tommy was gone. They searched for weeks. Search parties, dogs, even brought in state police. Nothing. It was like he'd evaporated. Then, exactly 1 month after he disappeared, I heard them again. I was lying in bed, trying to sleep, when the singing started. Outside my window, on my lawn, ring around the rosy. I looked out, and there they were. The Echo Children, dozens of them, standing in a circle on my front yard, holding hands, singing. And in the center of the circle, Tommy. He looked exactly the same. Same clothes, same bowl cut, same freckles. But his eyes were wrong. Empty. Black. He stared up at my window and smiled. Then they all spoke in unison, in a voice that sounded like grinding stone. Come play with us, Marcus. It's your turn. I don't remember screaming. I don't remember my parents running into my room. I just remember waking up in the hospital 2 days later. The doctor said I'd had a severe panic attack. My family moved away from Ashford Hollow that fall. We never talked about what happened. But last year, I got a Facebook message from an unknown account. It was a video, 20 seconds long. It showed the inside of the Morrison house. And there was Tommy, standing in the attic, surrounded by children, all staring at the camera. He raised his hand and waved. Then he mouthed 3 words. "We're still waiting." The video was time-stamped from last week. Tommy would be 21 now. In the video, he was still 9 years old. My name is Rachel, and I need to warn you about Harlow Creek, Montana. Population, 284. If you ever drive through, do not, I repeat, do not attend the Harvest Festival. I was 23 when I took a job as a traveling nurse. In October 2021, I was assigned to the clinic in Harlow Creek for 2 weeks. It seemed perfect, a quiet mountain town, autumn colors, peaceful countryside. The people were friendly enough. Too friendly, maybe. Everyone smiled too wide, spoke too politely, and every single person I met mentioned the Harvest Festival. "You'll love it," they'd say. "Everyone attends." Everyone. The way they said everyone made my skin crawl. The festival was held on Halloween night in the town square. When I arrived at 7 p.m., the whole town was there. And I mean everyone. The sheriff, the mayor, the old woman who ran the general store, even patients I treated at the clinic that morning. They'd set up booths with games, food stands with cider and pumpkin pie, and in the center of it all was a massive bonfire. But something was off. The conversations would stop when I walked by. People would stare, then quickly look away. And everyone kept glancing at an old barn at the edge of the square. At 9 p.m., the mayor stepped up to a makeshift stage. He smiled, that same too-wide smile, and announced it was time for the main event. That's when I noticed. All the children were gone. Every single kid who'd been running around earlier had vanished. "This year," the mayor said, his voice echoing unnaturally, "we have a newcomer among us. How fortunate." Everyone turned to look at me. Just turned in unison and stared. Nobody blinked. Nobody moved. "Rachel," the mayor continued, "would you please join us on stage?" I should have run. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I was surrounded by 284 people, all staring, all smiling, all moving slowly toward me. I walked to the stage. I had no choice. The mayor took my hand. His skin was ice cold. "We have a tradition here in Harlow Creek," he said. "Every 10 years, the town must make a choice. A sacrifice to keep our prosperity, our health, our survival. The land demands it, and the land must be fed." He led me toward the barn. The crowd followed, silent except for the shuffle of their feet. When he opened the barn doors, I saw them. Photographs, hundreds of them, covering every inch of the walls. All different people, all strangers, all with the same terrified expression. Beneath each photo was a date. They went back decades. 1961, 1971, 1981, 1991, 2001, 2011, all October 31st, all 10 years apart. And there were other things in the barn. Chains, a stone altar, and markings on the floor that looked ancient, predating anything I'd ever seen. "The land chose you," the mayor whispered. "The moment you arrived in Harlow Creek, it chose you. We felt it. We all felt it." That's when I saw the children. They were behind the altar, standing in a circle, holding hands, chanting in a language I didn't recognize. Their eyes were rolled back in their heads, showing only white. The townspeople began chaining me to the altar. I fought, I screamed, but there were too many. The mayor raised a knife, old, rusted, covered in stains I didn't want to think about. "It'll be quick," he said softly, "and then you'll become part of Harlow Creek. Forever." I don't know what happened next. I swear I don't. One moment, the knife was coming down. The next, there was an explosion of light and wind. The townspeople were thrown back, screaming. The chains shattered, and I ran. I ran through the woods, branches tearing at my clothes, my lungs burning, the sounds of pursuit behind me. I ran until I reached my car, parked 2 miles outside town. I drove through the night. Didn't stop until I was 3 states away. But here's the thing I can't explain. When I checked my phone the next morning, I had dozens of missed calls, all from Harlow Creek numbers, and one voicemail. It was children's voices, speaking in unison. The land remembers. The land is patient. We'll see you in 10 years. I reported everything to the state police. They investigated. You know what they found? Nothing. Harlow Creek was empty. Every house, every building, completely abandoned, like the entire town had just left. But here's what keeps me up at night. My GPS says Harlow Creek doesn't exist. Never existed. There's no record of it anywhere. But I have the newspaper from the general store. I have dirt under my fingernails from that barn floor. I have scars from those chains. And in 9 years, I'll find out if they meant what they said. My name is David, and I lived in Pleasant Grove, Idaho for exactly 6 months. That was 5 months and 29 days too long. My wife Jennifer and I moved there in January 2020. We were newlyweds, looking for a quiet place to start our lives together. Pleasant Grove seemed perfect. Population, 1,200. White picket fences, tree-lined streets, a community center, a farmer's market every Saturday. The Hendersons lived next door. Bill and Carol, both in their 60s, retired, friendly. They brought us a casserole the day we moved in. "Welcome to Pleasant Grove," Carol said, smiling. "You're going to love it here. Everyone does." On our other side were the Patels, mid-40s, 2 teenage kids. They brought us cookies and also said the exact same thing. "You're going to love it here. Everyone does." Weird coincidence, we thought. Within a week, we'd met most of the neighborhood. Everyone was friendly. Too friendly. They'd show up at our door at odd hours. 6 a.m. with fresh bread. 10 p.m. with leftover pie. Always smiling. Always saying the same phrases. "Beautiful day, isn't it? You're fitting in so well. Pleasant Grove is special." Jennifer noticed it first. She was a photographer and had a good eye for detail. "Have you noticed," she said one night, "that everyone here looks similar?" I thought she was crazy, but then she showed me her photos from the farmer's market. When you really looked at them, she was right. Different heights, different ages, different ethnicities, but their faces, there was something in the structure, the set of their eyes, the shape of their smiles, like they were all related somehow, all part of the same family tree. We started investigating. The library had records going back to 1890. Pleasant Grove had been founded by a group of settlers. The Martinez family, the Henderson family, the Patel family, the Chun family. 13 founding families in total. And here's the thing. Those same 13 family names appeared in every census, every record, every document. For 130 years, no one else had ever moved to Pleasant Grove. We were the first outsiders in over a century, until we realized we weren't the first. We were just the first to stay longer than a week. Jennifer found a box in the community center archives. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Couples, families, all standing in front of our house. Different decades, different styles of clothing, but all clearly outsiders who'd moved in. On the back of each photo was written one word: incomplete. That night, we decided to leave. We'd pack up and go in the morning, but at 2 a.m. we heard them. Footsteps. Outside our house. Lots of them. I looked out the window. The entire neighborhood was on our lawn. All 1,200 residents of Pleasant Grove, standing in perfect rows, all facing our house, all smiling. Carol Henderson stepped forward and knocked on our door. 3 sharp raps. "David, Jennifer, we know you're planning to leave, but you can't. Not yet. You're not complete." "What does that mean?" I shouted through the door. "You need to understand what Pleasant Grove is," Carol continued, her voice eerily calm. "We're not like other towns. We're family. A real family. We share everything. Our thoughts, our memories, our very essence." That's when Jennifer grabbed my arm. "David," she whispered, pointing at the window. "Look at their eyes." I looked. Every single person's eyes were reflecting light in the exact same pattern, moving in the exact same way, blinking in perfect synchronization. They weren't individuals. They were one thing. One entity wearing 1,200 different faces. In 1890, Carol said, our founders discovered something in the caves beneath Pleasant Grove. Something old. Something that offered us immortality, prosperity, unity. But it required something in return. New blood, new members. Every few decades, outsiders must join us, must become part of the family. We've been waiting for you, they all said in unison now, their voices layering into something inhuman. We've been preparing you. The casseroles, the cookies, the bread, all laced with what we call the blessing. It's in your bloodstream now, in your cells. You're already changing. I looked at Jennifer. In the dim light, I saw it. Her eyes, they were starting to sync with mine. When I blinked, she blinked. When I breathed, she breathed. We ran, crashed through the back door, jumped a fence, ran to our car. The entire town followed, walking calmly, smiling, calling out, you can't leave. You're family now. We made it out, drove for 12 hours straight, went to a hospital, got blood tests, full workups. The doctors found something in our system they couldn't identify. Foreign proteins, changing our DNA. It's been 3 years. The changes are slow, but they're happening. Jennifer and I are becoming more alike every day. We finish each other's sentences, feel each other's pain. Our reflection look more similar now than they did before. And sometimes, late at night, we hear them. All 1,200 voices calling to us. Come home. Come home. You're family. You're incomplete. The worst part, we want to. God help us, we want to. My name is Elizabeth, and I grew up in Ridgway, Kansas. Population, 509. The town that time forgot, built around a train station that's been abandoned for 40 years. I was 16 in the fall of 2018. Ridgway was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and nothing exciting ever happened. The old train station was our hangout spot. My friends and I would sit on the platform, drink stolen beers, and complain about how badly we wanted to leave. The track still ran through town, but no trains had stopped in Ridgway since 1979. They'd all just blow right through, their whistles echoing through the valley. But there was one train that the old-timers never talked about, the midnight train. If you were out past midnight near the tracks, you'd hear it. A whistle that sounded wrong, too long, too low, like it was screaming. My friend Alex didn't believe the stories. It's just a regular train, he'd say. You guys are paranoid. So one Friday night in October, he dared us. Let's go to the station at midnight. Prove there's nothing special about this train. 6 of us went. Me, Alex, Casey, Jordan, Megan, and Tom. We brought flashlights and sat on the platform, waiting. At 11:47 p.m., we felt it. A vibration in the tracks, getting stronger. Then we heard the whistle. It sounded like screaming, like metal tearing, like 1,000 voices crying out at once. What the hell is that? Casey whispered. The train appeared around the bend, but it was wrong. So wrong. The locomotive looked old, like something from the 1940s, but it was rusted, covered in strange symbols. And the windows were all broken, jagged glass reflecting our flashlight beams. And it wasn't slowing down. As it passed us, I saw inside the cars. People, dozens of them, passengers in old-fashioned clothing, all standing, all pressed against the windows, all reaching out toward us. Their mouths were open in silent screams. Their eyes were completely white. The train had to be going 80 miles per hour, but I saw every detail. I saw a woman in a 1950s dress, a man in a conductor's uniform, children in school clothes from decades past, all dead, all trapped. And then I saw something that made my blood freeze. My grandmother. She died 6 months earlier, but there she was, pressed against a window in the third car, her hand against the glass, staring right at me. The train passed in seconds, but it felt like hours. When it was gone, We just stood there, speechless. Then Tom started crying. "My dad," he said. "I saw my dad. But he's alive. He's at home right now." We all ran to Tom's house. His mother answered the door, confused. Tom's father was in bed asleep, or he should have been. When we checked on him, he was lying there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, breathing, but not responding, like he was somewhere else. The doctors called it a catatonic state. No medical explanation. He just left. His body was there, but he was gone. I went to the library the next day and found the truth. In 1948, a passenger train crashed just outside Ridgeway, derailed at midnight. 73 people died. But here's what the official records don't say. The crash wasn't an accident. The conductor, a man named Ernest Pike, had gone insane. Claimed he'd seen ghosts on the tracks. Claimed the dead were calling to him. He deliberately derailed the train, killing everyone including himself. They buried the wreckage in a mass grave and built the new tracks right over it. And every night since then, at exactly midnight, the ghost train runs, looking for new passengers. And if you're at the station when it passes, if you see someone you know inside those cars, it means they're coming. Soon. Tom's father died 3 days later. Heart just stopped. No warning. And on the night he died, Tom said he heard the train whistle at his house, 2 miles from the tracks. That was 2 years ago. I left Ridgeway the day I graduated high school, moved to California, tried to forget. But last week, I was walking home from work and I heard it, the whistle. I was in Los Angeles, in the middle of the city, nowhere near train tracks. But I heard it, clear as day, right behind me. I turned around, and for just a second, just a fraction of a second, I saw them. The tracks, the station, the train pulling in, and in the window of the first car, me. I was staring out at myself, my hand pressed against the glass, my mouth open in a silent scream. The vision disappeared. I was back in LA, but now I know. I saw myself on that train, which means it's coming for me. I don't know when. Could be tomorrow. Could be years from now. But that train always collects its passengers. And once you see yourself in those windows, there's no escape. If you ever find yourself in a small town with abandoned train tracks, do yourself a favor. Stay inside after midnight, because some trains don't take you anywhere. They take you nowhere. Forever. Those were 5 true stories from small towns that most people have never heard of. Towns where secrets run deep and the past never truly dies. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We post new terrifying true stories every week. Drop a comment below telling us which story scared you the most, or share your own small town horror experience. Until next time, stay safe out there. You never know what's waiting in those quiet little towns off the beaten path. Good night, everyone.